So this is really, really tough because the indicators, the metrics, I think the smart numbers say San Francisco is the more well-rounded team. They annihilated the Packers in their first matchup, and they're at home. I, however, cannot get past this. On one side of the ledger, I have Aaron Rodgers, and on the other side of the ledger, I have Jimmy Garoppolo. On one side of the ledger, we've got one of the greatest quarterbacks I've ever seen and a guy who is on a very short list of players at that position whose all-time great performance maintains in the postseason. There are guys who we consider better quarterbacks than Aaron Rodgers, but who in their history in the postseason, they are not what they are in the regular season. Aaron is. Aaron's got the best passer rating in NFL history in the regular season, and it's almost identical to his postseason passer rating. And the moment that this is being presented for him, I think he's going to channel some of that 2012, 2013, 2014 Aaron Rodgers magic that we saw him channel some of in the playoff game against Seattle when he was given the opportunity, when he had to make a play. And I think the moment might be a little too big for Jimmy Garoppolo, who quietly, Canty, was actually really bad against the Vikings. Like, it didn't matter. He only had to complete 11 passes. They were in full control of that game. Diggs gets the touchdown. Then after that, it's all Niners for 2.5 hours of football. And Jimmy G obviously has had some great moments this year. He was great in the game against the Saints. He was very good in the final game of the year against Seattle. I still think that if the Packers' offensive line can hold up, with Bakhtiari and Bulaga, two guys that I think you said you believe to be maybe the best pair of tackles in football.
Who are actually healthy now.
Yeah, Bulaga's actually playing this week, unlike Week 12. If they can hold up, it's going to be just enough for somehow Aaron Rodgers to lead this team to a very close major upset victory on the road against the Niners.
Yeah, it's funny. I see this one the same way you do. I like the Green Bay Packers in this game, and I know all of the metrics say that the San Francisco 49ers are the more complete team. But you look at the disparity between quarterbacks and the experience that the quarterbacks have on this stage. It has to be a little bit concerning if you're a 49ers fan, because Jimmy G wasn't great against the Vikings. He had that interception that he threw right before halftime in the Vikings game. And guess what? It could have been a different game if the Vikings were able to convert that into a touchdown, but they weren't. So you have to credit the 49ers defense. But when you look at the way that Aaron Rodgers is playing, I mean, you saw him channel a little bit of that magic against the Seahawks. I didn't realize this till I went back and looked at the numbers. But Aaron Rodgers didn't throw an incompletion on a pass that traveled more than 10 yards in the air.
It's perfect.
He didn't. He's perfect. So, I mean, if you have a quarterback that's capable of being able to push the ball down the field with that type of precision, it bodes well for you in a game like this, because you got to think that Aaron Rodgers is going to have to extend the down. He is going to have to go off schedule because you are facing a disruptive front with the San Francisco 49ers. So Aaron Rodgers, if he's able to elude that front a little bit better than he did in their first matchup in the regular season, I think that the Packers will have opportunities for big plays in the passing game down the field.
You talk about the quarterback disparity. If you match these two teams up, besides the quarterback, is there a position, including the head coach, where the Packers come out on top, where the Packers have the edge or the advantage, any position on the team, including the coaching staff?
It depends on how you look at it. If you go running backs versus running backs, pass rush versus pass rush, the answer is probably no. But if you go the Packers pass rush against the people who are going to have to stop it, the Niners offensive line, I think they can play them to a wash there. Now, again, the Niners have an excellent offensive line. An offensive line that had been banged up during the year is healthier now. But where I think the point that you were making about experience, I think is very, very important, because it's not just, by the way, Aaron Rodgers that has more experience. This Packers team as a whole has more experience, not at the head coaching spot, but the players as a whole have more experience at this moment, this part of the season, than the Niners do. And the one other element here that I find interesting that I want to draw on your experience for is the Packers are 7.5-point dogs, depending on where you get it, 7 to 8-point dogs. You were on a team that was an 8-point underdog to the Green Bay Packers, granted a round earlier, the divisional round in 2011. Aside from the quarterbacks, What do the other guys on a team that is a major underdog have to do in order to pull off what would be a substantial upset? The Packers are as big of underdogs this weekend as the Titans are, even if we both look at those games very differently. What do the other guys have to do to help Aaron Rodgers out to pull off this type of upset?
Well, I think the other guys have to understand the game plan and understand their role within that. Now, one of the things that I like about Green Bay is that offensively they're going against a similar defensive scheme that they faced in the Seahawks in the 49ers, because there's going to be a lot of single high safety looks, whether it's man coverage or whether it's cover 3. That's what they're going to be going up against. And I think that this offense has some answers for that. If you look at what they did against the Seattle Seahawks, Matt LaFleur moved the pocket a whole lot. Quick targets for Aaron Rodgers in the flat. It was easy, 1 read, 2 read, and if it's not there, throw the football away. I think he's going to have to do something similar in this matchup. You're going to have to move the launch point, because you know you can't drop back and expect your offensive line to hold up pass in, pass out against that defensive front. We talked about it before with the 49ers D-line. They have 4 guys that have 6.5 sacks or more on the season. So it's a very talented group. You can't expect your offensive line to be able to hold those guys at bay the entire game. So you've got to be able to have answers to combat that. And I think one of the answers is moving the pocket and getting the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands quickly.
Screens and draws as well is another element to get the Niners pass rush off balance. But it should be noted, Aaron Rodgers has been historically unfortunate in regards to how his defense has played in playoff games they've lost. The average points given up by a Packers team in a playoff loss since Rodgers taken over is over 36 points per game. The defense has not been able to get off the field in Aaron Rodgers' 7 playoff losses. Also, the quarterbacks he's lost to in the playoffs: Kurt Warner in a year that the Cardinals were en route to the Super Bowl. Eli Manning after he had already won a championship. Cap twice when Cap was at the peak of his powers. Russell Wilson as a defending Super Bowl champion. Carson Palmer the year he was, I think, second in MVP voting. And then Matt Ryan the year he won the MVP. That's the full list. There's not a single quarterback with the profile of Jimmy Garoppolo that has beaten an Aaron Rodgers-led Packers team. Now, they haven't played many teams as well-rounded as San Francisco, and I'm not trying to make it sound like either one of us think this is a mismatch in the Packers' favor, because I don't think we do, but I don't think they should be 7-point underdogs, and I do think if it is close late, it favors Green Bay because of the experience and the talent at the quarterback position.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.